Hey, beautiful people. My name is Kristen. Thank you for stopping by my channel. Today, I am doing another book tag get to know you. This one is different than the newbie book tag. This one centers more on personal life and preferences as opposed to some of the bookish related questions. I was tagged by Books Cause Insomnia, my friend Michele, and so I actually think she tagged my other channel, but it belongs on this channel. So here we go. 25 things. I'll try to do them quickly, but interestingly. So number one, what is your channel about? I mean, anything book related that kind of brings me joy or interest or I think is fun and interesting that I'm going to throw out there because I want to talk about it. I want to share it. I want to have some feedback on it. So anything book related that brings me joy. How old are you? I am 51 and I will be 52 at the end of the year. What's your relationship status? I am married. My husband's name is David. I have two of my sons and he has a daughter who is now mine. So we have a 15-year-old, a 20-year-old, and a 24-year-old. Did you go to college and what's your occupation? I went to a small private Presbyterian affiliated college in Texas, Austin College. Yay, fighting kangaroos. I mean, how many colleges have kangaroo as their mascot? Not so many. So it was a very unique place. Totally love it, totally proud of it. I now am a youth director at a Methodist church. I've been also in the Presbyterian church, which was my upbringing. So there you go. Where are you from and where do you live? I am from Texas originally, so a lot of my views or even my words I have discovered are very Texan, and I've even been told by friends that, like, for instance, the word rodeo has a very positive connotation to me, but lately people have been using rodeo as a negative, right? And so I have to be careful sometimes because I say a lot of words that I mean one way and my culture, but they kind of change and warp over time. And I currently live in Virginia, and I also love Virginia, been here a long time. So I think all places are very interesting, and we get to learn each other's languages. Looking back, what would you have told your 10-year-old self? So looking back, I would have told my 10-year-old self that it's going to be okay to not take things so seriously, because it took me a long time to get comfortable with not having everything all planned out and organized and structured, and that just brings so much angst that wasn't necessary. It's going to be okay. Everything is not as important as you think it is when you're 10 or middle school or growing up. Tell us about your family. I started a little bit. My current family, my boys are in college. They live in the split level apartment. I often don't even know if they're around. I get to see my daughter every other week. And my growing up family, I have a sister, one sibling, and we grew up in Texas. So that's my extended family. What's your favorite holiday? Easter. I love Easter. I always I'm going to come from a perspective of faith because I grew up with the daughter of a minister and currently work for a church. Love Jesus, love faith, but I hope that I never am pushy about that or push my viewpoints on somebody to feel like they are less than. I love learning about others, about their story, about their faith, about what they believe. I think that is part of our spirituality, is sharing those thoughts. And I find that that is sacred and holy ground. And I don't feel like everybody has to agree. In fact, I think it's awesome when we don't, and we can respectfully engage in that conversation and learn from each other. Kind of like the words and the language changing from place to place, so does things that are spiritual, because those are intimate and close to us and need to be respected. So I respect everybody's. You have no budget. What's your dream vacation? I have two. The first one I would take is Ireland, because I want to go see the Book of Kells in Dublin. And of course I would do Guinness, and I would do Waterford, and I would do the Blarney Stone, and I would do the beautiful Ring of Kerry and the landscape and the castles and the sheep and all that kind of wonderful stuff that you think of when you think of Ireland. And then secondly is the trip that I would love to do to New Zealand, to do the Lord of the Rings tour. And while you're all the way over on the other side of the planet, I definitely would then plan in going to the Fiji Islands or one of those places, Maldives, that has the water cottages and just totally on the ocean. I think that would be definitely a dream. Name your biggest pet peeve. Currently, my biggest pet peeve is when people take one piece of information and they just assume everything. It's just so generalized, and it just hurts my heart because we shut out the stories, right? That's why I love books. I love being open, and even if I feel like there should be more room to disagree. And it was interesting because my brother-in-law on Facebook posted a quote about something to the extent of, we can love one another without agreeing. And then a friend of his kind of pushed back and said, well, I understand the principle of that, but if somebody disagrees to the point where they are hateful to other people or endanger everybody else in their actions, then I don't love them. And I was thinking about that response as I'm reading it, going, oh, this is one of those times that is just generalizing. Like, you would assume, for instance, maybe if somebody wasn't wearing a mask, all of a sudden that they're selfish. That's an assumption that can sometimes be made. Well, what if that person legitly has something going on? Now, it is a small percentage, right, that might have that, but there's reasons for what's going on for each person. There's a story behind each person's each viewpoint, even within that story. And so I was like, oh my goodness. And my brother-in-law so beautifully responded and just said, because in her thing she had said in little parentheses, not you specifically. In other words, I love you, but if you're talking about this in general, I wouldn't be loving people. And so he addressed it that angle. He said, I so appreciate that you differentiated between generalization and loving me. And when I posted, I meant it individually to you and to each of my friends. I am telling you as individuals, I love you, and we can disagree. And when we generalize, that's when it becomes a problem where we can shut out the love or shut out the understanding. And the generalization is where the division comes in. And I just thought about it and thought how profound that was. It's like the generalization is where the misunderstanding comes in, the labeling, which we all do that naturally to protect ourselves, but how beautiful to see each other as individuals. And so I'm just mindful of that. And that's a long answer to my pet peeve, but just not seeing individuals and being too generalization. And I am guilty of it, of myself. I'm claiming it, that I can absolutely do that too. And I'm going to be more mindful of trying to understand the individual stories and be open to everything on all the levels, because sometimes it's hard, y'all. I get it. What book changed your life? So besides the Bible, which did, of course, if we're talking about fiction books or books growing up, I have to say The Secret Garden, since it was the first book that I remember just falling in love with, reading multiple times, just really finding my love of reading by spending time with that book. So I believe that's going to be my answer to that question. What simple invention improved the world? So my favorite story, I read a book about 50 inventions, and the one that just totally jazzed me was clocks. And I just had never really thought about, there's always time, right? But in the very beginning, before clocks, noon would be when the sun was directly overhead. That's noon, high noon, right? Sun's above you. Well, noon would be different for every single person because they're standing in a different place, or they're a county over and the sun's going to take minusculely, granted, but it's going to take a different time to be noon for each person or each county. And that got to be really confusing because how do you meet, or you know what I'm saying? So the invention of clocks and standard time and time zones. So maybe even time zones as an invention, if I can pick that. Not even the clocks to keep time, because that happened way before time zones. I'm going to go with time zones as the invention that I think is just revolutionary and just made awesome progress. But I'm a time nerd. If a book has to do with time, please let me know. Love time. What is your favorite movie and TV show? My favorite movie is Lord of the Rings. Hands down, always will be. Epic. If I can't watch anything else, I'm always good with watching Lord of the Rings. TV shows change. Right now we're watching Reign and we're watching The 100. We've been watching those forever and ever and ever. And we may someday get through them. They're good. I like them. Describe yourself using 3 fictional characters. So I had to think about this one a little bit, right? So first I was thinking Mary from The Secret Garden, because I think that's why I kind of resonate with that book. Like, I have this side that wants to explore. If you don't know The Secret Garden, it's the story of this little girl goes to this house and she discovers a boy with a disability who's kind of mostly locked away in a bedroom, not like maliciously, but just because of his disability. And there's like this garden that is all overgrown and not easy to find or get to, kind of thing. So that's the premise of the book. So this spirit of adventure, this spirit of kind of discovering and compassion towards someone else, that just really resonates with me and who I am in my soul. So Mary from Secret Garden. I'm going to go with Arwen from Lord of the Rings, just because I want it to be like her. I want to be the heroine who would be brave and who would, if you want him, come and claim him, kind of kick some booty and save the world. That would be awesome. I would like to be that. I don't know that I am, but I would like to be that. So we're going to go with that because it's my choice. And then I couldn't really come up with another one, but this just came into my head. Lilu from The Fifth Element. So if you've seen that movie with Bruce Willis, because I'm a huge Bruce Willis fan, if you've seen that movie, it's a cult classic, old school. I think it came out in the 90s, and it's kind of sci-fi, but she is this otherworldly creature that gets sent here on a mission to claim the fifth element to stop evil from taking over the world. And she's just all in, committed to what she believes, but she doesn't have information and she doesn't even speak English. And she's struggling to communicate. She's struggling to be understood, but she's passionate about what she does. And she is going to give everything she has to do that. And it's miraculous that she even can or succeeds. So I'm going to go with that as my character. What was your dream job? I mean, I don't know at what point of life it's asking what my dream job is. I happen to think I have a dream job, getting to work with teenagers, because that keeps me young. My previous desire was to be a flight attendant, which in today's world, they're my heroes. I don't want to be a flight attendant anymore. That's like crazy, y'all. Y'all need to be nice to your flight attendants. They are putting up with a lot. Let's get to someplace safely, please. Whew. If magic was real, what spell would you learn first? Time travel. I mean, easy, hands down. I would want to alter time, go through time, understand, even just be able to have visions of past or future. That would be so great. Share a favorite childhood memory. So I mean, book related, even. I remember going to bookstores. If my parents let me pick out a book or buy a bookmark, that was just ginormously a good day. I do have very fond memories of going to the beach, particularly with my sister and my good friends Mitzi and Sabra. And I've got great memories of playing with my childhood friends in the neighborhood. And I've just been able to reconnect with most of them in recent years. And that has just been a huge joy. Just very blessed to have a great childhood with lots of fun memories. What's your favorite social media platform? YouTube and the friends I meet here. I mean, that's easy. I would give up Facebook and everything else, but I would not want to give up YouTube. If you could pick any book character who you could spend the day with, who would that be? I'd probably pick Aragorn from Lord of the Rings, just because I just love that story and would love to talk about a lot of the things that happen in that book and then just know more about that character. Plus, I kind of like to think of myself as Arwen, and she went with Aragorn, right? But yeah, we'll go with that. What's your spirit animal? I mean, I don't really necessarily put a whole lot of stock in spiritual animals, but I like the principle of it, and I've always thought of myself as kind of relating to the cats. You know, they're very loyal and loving, but they are independent and have their own mind. What old person thing do you do? Talk about my health. I talk about my health way more than I should, and I didn't realize this actually until I married my husband David, and he says, don't tell people how I feel or anything about my health. That's just really rude and hurts me. And I'm just like, and it just kind of shocked me, because I'm just like, I never thought of it as, I mean, I understand that it's private, right? We even have HIPAA laws, but to me, I want to know how other people are, not necessarily a nosy way, but in a I care way, or I want to know about that, or even I want to know how to keep myself healthy. You know, what caused this, so maybe we can prevent that in myself or other people. You know, I'm going to be a good old person, because I like to talk about what's bothering me or ailing me, and I want to hear about everybody else's, so I'll be popular at the nursing home. Do you have a hidden talent? Nope. I don't think I have any hidden talents. If I have a talent that I know about, I'm going to tell you. That's just, yeah. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? So when I hate this question, because when I think of this question, it's so funny, because so many things seem like they're going to change in 2 or 3 years, right? I've got kids that are going to graduate from college. You know, our daughter's going to be going off to college in 3 years. Our pets all their life expectancy of we have 7 fish, a dog, and a cat, and all of their life expectancy should be right at the end in 3 years. And so we're kind of bracing ourselves or preparing ourselves. Yeah, so who knows what 5 years is going to bring. I just don't even like that to think about that question. We'll see. We'll make it up. Share an item and tell us its significance. So I shared this in a previous video on my other channel, but because this is a new book channel, I wanted to share my favorite book, right? Makes sense. So this is my favorite book. It is Bernard Shaw's book of plays. It came from a place called the O Street Mansion in Washington, D.C., which everything in there is for sale, but it's also a hotel. It was like 5 brownstone townhouses that were bought together, and they cut holes and secret passages so that they would all connect, and a lot of celebrities or stars will go there. Nobody's allowed to know who else is staying there, so there's secret entrances. So if somebody's really, you know, hounded by the paparazzi, they have different ways they can get them in and out. It's just a really cool place, and the whole place is filled with books and, you know, estate books. So this book my dad bought me on my birthday, and it contains the play St. Joan, which is a play that I did when I was in college. I lived in a renovated barn for a summer and did theater and got paid a small amount of money for doing it. So I like to even say I was a working actress. So this has a play that's very important and special to me. So father buying it on my birthday has a play that was monumental in my life, and it's a beautiful old copy of a book. So there you go. The last thing is to tag somebody else to do this. So I'm still fairly new to BookTube. There's probably half a dozen to a dozen Booktubers that I've been following for a couple of years. And most of those bigger ones have already done this or something very similar. But there's some newer channels and I'm still getting to know them. So I'm going to tag one of those new ones, and one of them that I think is very clever that she posts about, every 2 to 4 weeks is Avery Avid Reader. And it's cute because her name could be broken up a very avid reader. So I'm not sure which she prefers. I told her I like to say Avery Avid Reader because that's her name, but I'm going to tag you if you would like to do this. I would like to get to know you and know some of these answers to your questions and how's it going. So that is my answer to that. But if you are a booktuber who is watching this, or anybody else who just wants to make it for their channel, by all means do it and let me know in the comment that you're doing it so that I can get to know you. I appreciate your time. I hope this wasn't too chatty, that you learned something fun and new. Leave me a comment below if you resonated with any of this, or if it stirred something up and you're opposed. I'm okay to disagree with people. That is not a problem with me. And if you want to email me and have private dialogue, it's enterthebookkristen@gmail.com. So y'all take care. Hope you will subscribe. Stick around.